My name is Kinsley Harper, I'm 32 years old, and on Christmas Eve I got a call I knew all too well. Not to check in, not because they cared, but to give orders. Be in New Jersey tomorrow, 15 guests, don't make this difficult. My father's voice was firm, like he was speaking to an employee. In the background, my mother chimed in softly, "This is the one thing you're actually good at. Cooking, cleaning, serving, disappearing. That's the role they've written for me for the past 15 years. I sat quietly in my Chicago apartment, staring at the contract in front of me. An opportunity that could change my entire company. But to them, I was still just someone standing in the kitchen. What they didn't know was, the important guest they were trying so hard to impress was the same person about to sign $1 million deal with me. I smiled into the phone. "I understand," I said. And I booked a flight, just not home. If you want to see what happens when the invisible one stops serving, comment 1 to watch the full story. To understand why that call didn't surprise me, you have to go back years. In my family, everything was always clear, just never said out loud. My younger sister was the pride. She walked into a room like an honored guest. Nice clothes, confident smile, stories my parents told with shining eyes. And me, I came in through the side door, carrying bags of groceries, already thinking about what was missing for dinner. At every holiday, my role never changed. Thanksgiving, I carved the turkey. Christmas, I cleared the table, washed the dishes. Easter, I stayed in the kitchen while everyone else took photos. When guests asked what I did, my father would wave it off. "She does something with computers, nothing special." Not because he didn't know, but because he never wanted to know. That was what hurt the most. Not being misunderstood, but never even being worth the effort to understand. In their eyes, I wasn't a person with my own life. I was a role. Someone who showed up when needed. Someone who made everything run smoothly. Someone who, if she disappeared, things would start to fall apart. And maybe that's exactly why they never believed I would actually leave. While they thought I was nothing special, I was running a company. Harbor Point Risk Advisory. It started with a borrowed desk, an old laptop, and a lot of people underestimating me. Now I have 38 employees, clients across multiple states, and contracts where each project is worth more than everything my father thinks I make in a year. I teach people in positions of power how to stay calm when everything is falling apart. But the ironic part is, my family has never asked what I do. Not once. And after a while, I stopped explaining, because you can't prove your worth to people who never wanted to understand it in the first place. If you've ever succeeded in silence, comment 1. That December, everything started to shift. My company was chasing the biggest contract we'd ever had. Westbridge Capital, one of the most influential investment firms in Manhattan. If we landed it, $2.4 million, a New York office, and Harbor Point moving to an entirely different level. For 3 months, my team and I practically lived inside that project. Crisis simulations, media scenarios, response strategies, every small detail had to be perfect. They didn't just want a proposal, they wanted the founder. They wanted me presenting in person. The final meeting was set for December 26th. But here's the interesting part. 2 days before that, my family was also preparing for an important event. My sister's Christmas dinner. 15 guests. One special attendee, someone my father had been trying to impress for months. I didn't ask for his name when I got the call. I didn't need to, because when I opened the confirmation email from Westbridge, I saw the signature at the bottom. Sebastian Price, CEO of Westbridge Capital. I stared at that name for a long time. Not because I was surprised, but because for the first time I could see everything aligning in a very clear way. The man they were trying so hard to impress already knew exactly who I was. They just didn't. The next morning, I got a text from my father, not a greeting, not asking if I could make it, just a list. Vacuum the first floor, clean the guest bathroom, buy white flowers, nothing cheap, prep appetizers before 5, dinner at 7, clean while you cook. Dress simple. I read it, then set my phone down. Before, a message like that would have sent me straight into planning. Which flight was cheapest, which store was still open, how to make sure no one complained. But that morning, I made coffee, opened my laptop, and focused on my 9 a.m. meeting with my team. When my dad called, I let it ring. My mom called, my sister called. I didn't pick up until the 3rd time. "What time are you getting here tomorrow night?" he asked, like it was already decided. "I'm not coming," I said. A pause, then a scoff. "Don't be ridiculous. I have a meeting in New York." His tone changed immediately. "The family needs you." I took a breath. "No, you're just used to using me." And for the first time in 15 years, I didn't back down. The tone on the other end shifted instantly. "You're embarrassing this family," my father said, his voice turning cold. My mother cut in, soft but sharp as a blade. "It's just a dinner. Why you always have to make everything difficult?" Then my sister grabbed the phone. "He's coming," she said quickly. "He's very important to my career. If you ruin this..." She paused. "I will never forgive you." I stood there, listening to every word. No one asked what I was doing. No one asked how important my meeting was. There was only one expectation. I had to be there, to serve them. I almost told them the truth, that the man they were trying so hard to impress would be sitting across from me 2 days later, that they were talking to the person he was about to sign $1 million deal with. But I stopped. They didn't need a warning. They needed a mirror. "I'll send you some options," I said calmly. "Private chefs, catering services, cleaning staff." My father cut me off immediately. "We don't need strangers, we need you to do your job." I repeated slowly. "My job?" "Yes," he said. "For once, be useful." I looked at my phone screen as it went dark, and I understood. That was the last thing I needed to hear. I didn't argue, didn't explain, didn't try to make them understand. I opened the family group chat and sent 5 contacts: private chefs, catering services, cleaning staff, phone numbers, price ranges, everything they needed to make the night run perfectly. I had done my part. My mom replied immediately, "We don't need to pay strangers when we already have you." My sister texted, "You're disgusting." My father didn't reply. That silence said everything. Not because he was busy, but because in his mind I wasn't someone who had the right to say no. I turned off notifications, closed my laptop, started packing my suitcase. A navy suit, black heels, my laptop, the proposal. The things that represented who I really was. Not the daughter in the kitchen, but the founder of a company about to walk into the most important meeting of her career. On the way to the airport, my phone kept lighting up, but for the first time, I didn't feel the need to answer. If you relate to Kinsley, leave a 2 in the comments. 8. The plane took off, and for the first time in years, I felt something very clearly. I wasn't leaving my family. I was leaving the role they forced me into. There's a big difference between the two. Down there, New Jersey was preparing for a chaotic dinner. Ahead of me, New York was waiting for a meeting that could change my entire company. 2 worlds. Same moment. Completely different. I arrived at a hotel in Midtown on Christmas Eve. The room was quiet. The city outside was glowing. I opened my laptop as soon as I set my bag down. Not because I didn't have feelings, but because, this time, there were people who truly depended on me. Not to serve them, but to lead them. My phone started vibrating nonstop. 5:20, where are the serving trays? 5:27, the towels in the bathroom aren't folded right. 37, get on a train right now. I skimmed the messages, then set my phone down. No reply. 6. The messages came faster. The guests are here. There are no appetizers. Dad is losing it. I looked at the screen, and I didn't feel the guilt they expected. Just a very clear kind of silence. For the first time, I wasn't the one holding everything together. 7 p.m., the guests started arriving. I knew that not because I was there, but because my phone wouldn't stop lighting up. The guests are at the door. We don't have any food ready. Mom is telling people you have mental issues. I read each message like I was watching a script I used to know by heart. Only one thing was different. This time I wasn't there to fix it. I could picture it clearly. My mom forcing a smile, trying to buy time. My sister pouring drinks, constantly checking her phone. My dad standing near the fireplace, talking louder than usual, to cover the panic. 7:30, still no main course. A few guests offered to help. My mom turned them down too quickly. Like admitting they had lost control would be worse than the chaos itself. 7:52, we're getting takeout. My sister's message popped up. I looked at the screen. No satisfaction. No sense of revenge. Just a simple truth. They were finally experiencing what happens when the person they always rely on is no longer there. And for the first time, they couldn't blame anyone but themselves. 8 p.m., the food finally arrived. Not the perfect dinner my mom always bragged about, but rushed takeout, cold sandwiches, pasta in plastic containers, fried chicken in paper boxes, all transferred onto expensive plates as if that could hide the truth. I read each message. He barely touched the food. The atmosphere is really awkward. He was Sebastian Price, the man my father had been trying to impress for months. I could picture it clearly. My father talking about his construction company, trying to sound confident. My mother laughing louder than usual. My sister trying to steer the conversation, but her eyes constantly drifting toward the kitchen door. And in the middle of it all, a man used to evaluating people. Watching. Not the food. Not the decorations. But how they reacted when things didn't go as planned. And the worst part wasn't that they were unprepared. It was that they were still blaming someone else. Amber is always difficult. She makes everything complicated. They were talking about me, like I was the problem, when in reality, I was the only one who wasn't even there. 10 p.m., a message came through. He's looking at the hallway wall. I sat up straight. I knew exactly which wall. The family achievement wall. But really, it was my sister's wall. Graduation photos, work photos, event photos. She took up almost all the space. I had 3. One from high school graduation, one old Christmas photo, me holding a tray of cookies, and one photo from a leadership conference in Chicago, black suit, holding a microphone. A photo my mom only hung because my aunt said it looked impressive. No one asked what event it was. No one cared, but Sebastian did. He had seen that photo before. In my proposal, in the founder profile of Harbor Point. The next message popped up. He asked if you're my sister. A pause. Then, no more messages for a few minutes. But I didn't need to read anything else to know what was happening. For the first time in years, someone looked at that same wall and actually saw me. What happened next, I only know from what I was told, but every detail was clear enough for me to picture it. Sebastian looked at the photo, then turned and asked, "Is Kinsley Harper your sister?" My sister forced a smile. "Yes, but she just does some small consulting work." My father stepped in, voice steady as always. "She likes doing things that sound important." My mother added, "She's not involved in tonight. Usually she just helps us in the kitchen." A pause. No one realized what they had just done. They were talking about me in front of the man who had spent 3 months reading my proposal. The man considering a multi-million-dollar deal with my company. Sebastian didn't raise his voice. He just asked a few more questions. "Have you ever been to her office? Do you know who her clients are?" No one had an answer. And that was the answer. He gave a small nod. "I see." Those 2 words ended everything. Not because of anything I said, but because they revealed themselves. If you think characters like Kinsley's parents are truly awful, leave so I know you see it too. Sebastian didn't stay long after that. No arguments, no confrontation. He simply ended it. He thanked them for the invitation, put on his coat, and left before dessert was even served. No one tried to stop him. No one knew what to say. The room wasn't a party anymore. It was just a place where everything had been seen for what it was. A message from my sister popped up. "What did you do?" I looked at those words and almost laughed, because the question was completely wrong. I didn't do anything. I didn't call. I didn't explain. I didn't expose them. I just didn't show up. And that alone was enough to make everything fall apart. A family built on relying on one person can't function when that person disappears. And an image built on words can't survive when it meets someone who knows the truth. That night, I didn't feel victorious. No satisfaction. Just clarity. For the first time, I wasn't the one holding their story together anymore. At 10 p.m., my phone rang. My father's name lit up the screen. This time, I answered. His voice was low, controlled, but angry. "What did you do tonight?" I stayed quiet for a second. "I didn't do anything." He let out a sharp laugh. "Don't pretend. You made us look like fools in front of him." "You did that yourselves," I said calmly. A long pause. I could hear my mother in the background whispering something. Then he spoke again, slower. He left, didn't say why, just walked out. I wasn't surprised. "Do you even know who he is?" I asked. "He's someone I'm trying to work with," my father snapped. I took a breath. "He's the one meeting me on the 26th. To decide whether he's signing a contract with my company." Silence. Not the kind filled with anger. the kind that collapses. For the first time, my father had nothing to say, because for the first time, the story he had believed for years was no longer true. "Why didn't you tell us?" he finally asked. I answered simply, "Because you never asked." And I hung up. 2 days later, I walked into the Westbridge Capital office. No longer the daughter in the kitchen, but the founder of Harbor Point. The meeting started right at 9 a.m. Sebastian walked in, looked at me, and said something that made the entire room go quiet. I believe I saw a real-life example of leadership. 2 days ago. I didn't look away. "That was a case of people confusing control with leadership," I replied. He smiled, and the meeting began. I walked them through every part of the project: crisis scenarios, response strategies, how to evaluate leadership under pressure. Not theory, but something I had lived through. The questions came tough, precise, but I answered every one of them, because this was my world, not a kitchen, but a place where decisions are made. At the end, Sebastian nodded. "We'd like to move forward." $2.4 million, a contract, a milestone. But the most important part wasn't the number, it was this. For the first time, I stood in a room where no one questioned my value. Not even me. If there's one thing I wish I had understood sooner, it's this. Being treated like the help doesn't mean that's your true value. I spent 15 years becoming the person my family needed. Always available, always making everything run smoothly, always staying quiet when I was overlooked. I thought that was responsibility. I thought that was how you earn love. But the truth is, you can't earn respect by constantly shrinking yourself. In fact, the more you give without limits, the more people start to expect it. I used to think leaving was selfish, but it's not. Staying in a role where you slowly disappear, that's the cruelest thing you can do to yourself. Boundaries aren't cold. They're how you tell the world, "This is how you're allowed to treat me." Family isn't a place where you have to prove your worth. Family is where that worth is seen. And if you don't have that, you have the right to build a different life, with people who respect you, in places where you don't have to make yourself smaller to fit in. And sometimes, the greatest victory isn't proving them wrong. It's building a life so strong that you no longer need their approval.